Namaste. This is VerDarLuz from Divine Timing Coaching, and I want to welcome you to August and all of the astrological trends and forecasts for the month ahead. It is a very powerful month. It may be a game-changing month for many of us. What do we have in store? We have 2 full moons, so this is unusual. And we always know that there's themes of polarity during full moons, so this could raise a lot of emotional energy for a lot of us. But not only that, we have both Venus and Mercury going retrograde and Uranus also going retrograde. So a lot of retrograde questioning, going within energies, questioning our values, what's important to us, our communications. We also have Mars in Virgo, Mars then changing signs to Libra. So that's going to be a distinct difference at the end of the month. We have the Venus squares to Uranus, a lot of changes in relationship, in money, in our values. So we have a lot to discuss and explore this month. So I'm going to share the screen with you. And before I do that, I want to let you know about a class I have this week. It will be recorded as well if you see this after. And it's all about planetary rites of passage. So different phases of life and ages that are most important to us. A lot of you may know about Saturn return. We'll talk about that, but the 7-year Saturn cycle, as well as Jupiter cycles, Uranus cycles, Neptune cycles, Pluto cycles, and how at different ages of life, they're really initiating us through these kinds of rites of passage. So whether it's a lover, a friend of yours, a colleague, a child, a mother or father, you could see certain phases of life that they're in just by knowing these planetary rites of passage. It's one of my favorite topics, something I wrote about in my first book, Codex of the Soul, and I hope to share it with you on this call. So let's look at the charts. I'm going to go step by step, day by day, and really look at the most powerful cycles for us to pay attention to here. So let's look at August 1st. And we actually start the month off right away with a full moon. And this is an Aquarius full moon that you're going to see here on August 1st. And so this full moon is really important because it activates the creator in us, the artist of Leo, the performer, with the tribe and the community and the needs for people who share the same vision, purpose, larger goals and ideals as us, which would be the Aquarius energy of the full moon. You know, freedom is always a theme that comes up during the Aquarius full moon. What does that mean for us, right? The freedom to be ourselves, to be authentic. You know, Aquarius has a lot of progressive ideals. So wherever there's been anything that feels stuck or rigid, that could get shaken up during this full moon. It's also really important to note that this is not just the moon-sun opposition in the sky during this full moon, but it is a Mercury-Saturn exact opposition. So in the days leading up to this and after this, you're feeling this, first of all, shift of Mercury into Virgo. And this is significant because this will be with us for the next 2 months. Mercury will be in Virgo into a lot of September. And this is Mercury's home sign. So he does very well in this sign. But as he starts this journey, he's opposite Saturn. And usually what happens here is that our mental processes, our communication, even the ideas that we're sharing or we're learning about, they take on this Saturnian flavor of we get more serious or we get more down to work. We might want to feel like, you know, we're saying what we mean, we're meaning what we say. And there is a more sober, serious tone, sometimes a little heavy, sometimes a feeling of constriction to what we're saying or how we're communicating it. Now, this, because Mercury's in his home sign, a very analytical left brain sign, this actually could be quite good for writing, for really thinking things out, for like planning your work and then working your plan. And we have the power to work our plan this month too, because as this transit changes, I'll just show you this. If we go ahead, you know, a few days, Mercury starts to get closer and closer to Mars. And we've had this Mars-Saturn opposition really in a lot of July, especially the second half of July. Now that's said, where are we going? What are we growing into in our life? Where's the hard work that we have to put in? And it tends to make us think about the longer term desires that we have. Mars Saturn is frustrating. It's not instant gratification, which is difficult for our current milieu and in society. But it is something that gets us very much more clear on what we really want to develop and orient ourselves towards, and then put the hard work and effort of a Mars-Saturn opposition into effect. Well, then we have Mercury putting our mental processes towards this and feeling like, okay, I'm not going to get the end result right now, but I will put in that Virgo dedication, devotion every day, maybe, towards building out and refining my message, my communication. It's a great time to edit. Mercury in Virgo by itself and Mercury opposite Saturn. So if we look at the first week of the month, we have some good editing energy. So it's a project you've been working on. It could be video, song, dance, anything that needs editing, obviously writing. This could be a great cycle to be doing that in. Mercury can show you where you need to tweak things. And generally, when we have both Mercury and Mars in Virgo, we are going to be aware where there's we need to critique ourselves and others. And so we have to be a little bit careful with being, overly critical of others, or anal, or, too kind of nitpicky. Things aren't clean enough, or they're not done the right way, that whole right way. Really, we're talking about efficiency. And this is a big theme with Virgo, that we want to get into rhythms and regimens that feel really healthy for us. Emotional health, mental health, spiritual health, and, that, and obviously physical. So, it could be something like getting into a regime where I get up every day, I do some kind of spiritual meditative practice, then maybe I go to the gym, or I dance, I work out in some way, then I get right into my work, and maybe I do these Pomodoro technique, which maybe you know about, which is 20 minutes on, take a break, 20 minutes on again. So you do these sort of deep dives into your project for a set amount of time, and then you stop, and then you do it again. And maybe longer than that. But that idea of sort of timing out and structuring our time. Now, I do a practice with a lot of my clients where we time map. And so we're going through the month and through the year and looking at your ideal cycles of when to, focus on certain areas of your life. This could be a really auspicious time with Mercury in Virgo, Mercury opposite Saturn, Mercury going retrograde this month in Virgo, to do some time mapping or something similar to that, where you're really managing your time and energy much more intelligently. So if there's been like some wasted energies around time, you're probably going to feel like some Saturn, stern voice coming to you and telling you you got to change this stuff up. So, so that's that Mercury Saturn opposition, just at the same time as that full moon. It's on the 1st, right here. And Mercury will, like we said, if we go forward to the 9th, 10th, let's see how close Mercury actually gets to Mars. And he will get about 3 degrees away before he goes retrograde, stationing on 6 degrees away the day he's stationed. So he gets about 3 degrees away in the middle of the month from Mars. And typically we could see that that's, especially in Virgo, that's a time where we can be, not only critical, but we might say some things that could be sometimes harmful or wounding, or, kind of fierce and very passionate. We might get very defensive about our, our perspective. And so we have to be careful with Mercury Mars to be combative or very competitive in how we're speaking, or a perspective that we have. Now, again, that can be very motivating mid-month. Mars energy catalyzing us to, communicate, write, edit, do those things. So Mars is giving some juice here. And there is some real great support as well. You could see here that Mercury and Jupiter in the 9th have an exact trine. And then Mars has actually been in trine to Jupiter too. And during that full moon, back on the 1st, you could see the Mars-Jupiter trine. And this is very energizing. This could be great for promoting ourselves, for adventures, learning a lot. Mars is in a mutable sign, but it's also earthy. So this could be accomplishing, achieving, being practical, being productive, maybe earning more resources. We love a Mars-Jupiter trine. It's very activating for us. And so it's an interesting full moon. I think it does definitely bring up some things that need to be looked at, and then gives us some energy to act upon it right away. Now, if we then look at that Mercury-Jupiter trine, it really starts around the 5th, 6th, and it will go, Mercury, let's say it goes until about the 18th, 19th. But when Mercury goes retrograde, he's going to go back over that trine. So he's really got like 3 big trines to Jupiter, putting the mental process, both linear and more intuitive, or left brain and right brain, are coming together. That's Mercury and Jupiter. It also may direct some of our energies. I think this whole month with Virgo, with Mars, Jupiter, Mercury, Jupiter, direct our desires and our actions towards more spiritual purposes or more spiritual learning. It could be like, yeah, I want to do that Qigong class, right? Or I really want to do that meditation class, or I'm going to yoga 3 times a week, or maybe it is the gym, or I'm going to finally do that training or that study, that process. Maybe I'm going to, start studying astrology or look at my chart more, be more analytical, but in a more spiritually oriented direction because of the Mercury trine to Jupiter, Mars trine to Jupiter. So Jupiter, again, giving us a sense of like, I got to expand myself and my wisdom in some way. But there's also something very earthy with this wisdom, given that Jupiter's in Taurus. It might even be about how I can earn more money in my life and feel more, Jupiter in Taurus, abundant, which might not even be about money for me. And so that might be one of the things that we are reconsidering during this month of reconsideration, of retrograde, of reflection. Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde. We're looking a lot at what's important to us and what we have to do to actually immerse ourselves in the field of those essential values. So let's talk about this more. Let's back up and see what's the next big cycle that comes in after the full moon. So we do have, watch what's happening here with Venus, right? She is retrograde. And when we look at, let's back up to the 6th. The sun is square Jupiter on this date. And as let's say the second week of the month comes in, the sun starts to come into a square with Uranus too, which is going to mark our new moon. Okay, coming in here. If you want to get both of the lunations down, that's going to come right there on the 16th of the month, with a big square between Sun and Uranus. So we build into that square, but at the same time, we have Venus-Uranus square. And this is where I want to give you these dates as, let's start to look at the changes that are coming into all of our lives, because there's a lot when the Sun and Venus, Venus retrograde is squaring Uranus. We can expect a lot of surprises, expect the unexpected. There's some uncertainty. There's definitely change in the air. And so Venus all month is pretty much squaring Uranus. She's within a few degrees. There she is, 24, 22, August 5th. So by the 9th, you have that exact Venus-Uranus square. And this is where we would think relationships are going to relation shift, or maybe there is, you know, a new way we can experiment with how we earn money in our lives, and maybe how we express erotic energy, love energy, intimacy, what it means to feel acknowledged and honored and recognized in our creativity and in our sense of our own beauty and nobility and royalty. We're talking about Venus in Leo. And so there is something really, like, there's some kind of peak moment, peak change, maybe some innovation that you bring to your art, how you express yourself, how you present yourself, the kind of people you're around. You may be like, I need a whole new group of friends, right? Or I go to an event that just like opens me up to a whole new possibility of what I find beautiful, the kind of people I want to be around, a different kind of relationship model, perhaps. Usually we would think something more open or experimental with Venus square Uranus, especially followed by the new moon square Uranus. So there's some kind of eruption, disruption going on, you know, that could be peaking the mid 2 weeks of the month. And as the month continues with even Mercury going retrograde. So look at this Venus square to Uranus. Remember that all month Venus is retrograde, questioning our values, what's important to us, the relationships that are in our life. Should I invest in this person, this group of people, this way of presenting myself? It might be clothing, it might be a hairstyle, it might be the way I speak, it might be how I create art and share that with the world. It might be also, you know, am I investing in the short term or the long term relationship, money, you know, crypto, stocks, you know, hard assets like a home. We're questioning all of these values. And we won't get clear until Venus goes retrograde. Venus goes direct around September 3rd or 4th, depending where you are in the world. But remember that Mercury will just be about 10 days retrograde at that time. So we do need to look at the end of the month being a little tricky because we have Venus and Mercury both retrograde. And that's why this month is not a clear month. And so I remember that Mercury opposite Saturn, we talked about at the beginning. Mars was opposite Saturn, we talked about in July. Saturn's in Pisces, and there's just a question for a lot of us of like, what's real, what's not? You know, what's like a dream or a fantasy that actually can be realized if I work really hard? Or is that like, what story do I want to tell? What story seems to be happening? Like, what role am I playing now? There's a lot of that kind of questioning going on this month. Like, you know, if this idea that we're all kind of actors in each other's, you know, dramas and comedies and tragedies, and we've hired all of each other, right? This is sort of 5D multidimensional awareness, right? That we do create our own reality, and everyone is a player in our theater. But this month it's kind of like, wow, like what's being written, and then how can I fulfill those roles? Like, I'm not sure if I want to play those roles, but I'm somehow playing them, and right, and that's where the soul contracts come in, because Venus retrograde often brings in soul contracts. Now, these can be people who we've known before in this lifetime, old colleagues, old friends, old lovers. You know, they help us see where our values were a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, especially 8 years ago, 2015, when Venus was back in Leo in the same area of your chart, whatever house that is, whatever Leo house. You might have a lot of those themes coming up. You might have people connected to those themes coming up. So definitely go back to summer 2015. That is present. Summer 2007, 8 years before that. That also would have been a significant time. So look back, that's the last time Venus was also in Leo retrograde. So some people are coming back into our lives from then, but there also may be new contacts, but they feel like old or maybe soul contracts. So, you know, someone you're working with, someone you meet at a party, someone you hang out with at a festival, or, you know, someone comes in and they're reflecting very core themes for you that bring up like, okay, yeah, this is what's important to me right now. You know, maybe it wasn't important last year. Maybe it's never been important. Maybe I see the importance of that for my future, and I'm going to make some changes in my life right now, you know, to create more of the kind of values of people, of beauty and art, and of maybe how I'm earning money, spending money. And so there's a lot of these shifts coming up. You may also be like questioning the foods you're eating, or the way, again, like you're spending money. And yeah, you know, it's the idea of spending versus investing. That's a big thing that can come up for a lot of us. And whatever's been percolating, it really hits this like peak moment right here on the 13th, because that's the Sun Venus cazimi, when the Venus is she's invisible at that time because she's in the rays of the sun. But whatever those values, those relationships, those soul contracts, aesthetics, beauty, our art that we're creating, how we're being seen and recognized, everything like sort of peaks around this moment. So there's something really significant there around the 13th. And so I'd really be looking at that date as pivotal. It's interesting too, because there's some real great mentorship or guidance coming in here with Venus and the Sun in a trine to Chiron the days before and after this. So there could be whatever revelation is coming there. I mean, it's a great time for relationship healing. Could be a time again for learning different ways of earning resources, but especially around how you're showing up in all of your glory, your Leo glory. You know, Chiron can bring, again, mentorship and coaching. Here we're talking about Venus, could be earning money, could be presentation of self, it could be how you present your art. But it's definitely like how you shine your light, Venus Sun. Yeah, in Leo. So very significant. There's a trine. Yeah, there's a trine to Chiron there. So note that. And then if we go, you can also see that Mars is trining Uranus. And again, that could be a great time for us to individuate, again, show our uniqueness, experiment with some things, maybe, you know, think and act outside of the box. Can be a good time for a little adventure, maybe an adventure with a partner, or, you know, this would be an interesting time to be dating. But remember, we're clarifying. We're not really, sometimes if we get involved in a new relationship with a Venus retrograde, it might not last because we're trying to get clear on what's important to us. So note that. And, you know, there can be, yeah, a desire for some freedom there. And again, I you know, Mars trine Uranus, that's supportive, but Venus square Uranus, that can be severing in terms of some relationships. But I don't know. I think this could be, if you are in a partnership, a great time to explore opening that up, whatever that looks like, that feels where both people are honored. There's real transparent communication. But be aware, you know, with Mercury going retrograde, that there's going to need to be a hashing out of what the boundaries are, what the agreements are. Yeah, and let's look at what comes around the new moon there. It's not exactly at that hour, but if we back it up, we could see that coming in here. So it is the 16th. remember that square to Uranus shakes things up, creates some uncertainty, maybe a little chaos going on here, probably related to relationships or money, something related to that. It's been seeding all summer, because Venus has been in Leo. She was already squared Uranus, back in late June. So something is coming back up now. And then we got this new moon. And we're setting up, a few things that are significant. First of all, Mars is going to start to oppose Neptune, right? And let me get the days back up here. 23, so 17, 18. That's going to happen exactly so Neptune's at 26, 27. So 23rd of the month. So that's very interesting because right as Mercury goes retrograde, we're going to have, so there's the station of Mercury on the 23rd, Mars opposite Neptune. Mars opposite Neptune can be confusing. We don't know exactly what direction we're going in. We may feel like very drawn, very motivated towards Neptunian things. So it could be, this is a great martial arts transit, dance transit, again, moving energy in these mutable signs. But it's not so clear, focused. The god of war is kind of like, maybe I need to do a little bit more strategy, but I'm not going to look at like the maps and do a formula of a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm going to go like out in the forest. I'm going to meditate. Then I'm going to start to move my body. And then there's going to be a vision that comes in. And then there's going to be a voice that comes in, and I'm just going to tune into that. Right. So that's a lot more what might be happening here. And then Mercury going retrograde. And so, Mercury is kind of opposite Neptune with this retrograde as it begins. Again, similar intuitive messages, guidance from the spirit world. Could be great to do some ceremony around this time. Could be with medicine, could be breath work, out in nature, perhaps, doing some dream incubation. But sort of left brain clarity might be a little bit clouded around this time. And that's why, in terms of interpersonal communication, we want to be a little careful here, because this can be confusing, or it can be sort of best intentions, but like it's not really, things aren't being accomplished or communicated in a way that feels solid or stable or supportive. It's a little bit more, we're swirling about it, right? We're not very clear. The answer isn't quite clear, and it's not going to be clear because Mercury will be retrograde until the middle of September. So wherever that Virgo area of your chart is, this is also the day that the sun comes into Virgo. There is going to be a lot of action there, all month, a lot of reflecting, getting clear on how we think about that house in our life or any Virgo planets. They're going to be very activated from Mars. They're going to be very, there could be some more desires that come up in that area of our chart, our Virgo area with Mars there. And then Mercury's like, should I have acted that way in that area, right? So if it's your fourth house of the home, should I live where I'm living? Should I make that change? Maybe I already made that change. Did I want to make that change? Was that a good idea? What do I really need from the home, right? If it's area of career, it could be same idea. Like I start moving in this direction in my career, and then I start questioning that. So it's kind of challenging because Mars is like driving us. We're moving a lot of energy and getting activated in that area where Virgo is in our chart. And then Mercury comes in to question, sort of right action there, and then right way of thinking about that. In Buddhist terms, right view. And so we're going to need to refine. I would say that wherever that house is for you, getting some of that Virgo mentorship or healing, sometimes like repair around that area, would be really important this month. Be patient with yourself, be gentle. There's something interesting I did pull up here, and I want to share a few cards that I chose for this month, and also some ideas from some teachings on ascension from my friend Deborah Giusti. And this is a month where we could get like really into that idea of like, you know, how can I really like raise my vibration? It could be through diet, right? Virgo is a very diet oriented sign. Maybe I'm cutting out things with Venus retrograde, too much sugar. And I really want to raise my vibration. I want to do healthier practices. And, you know, when we're talking about this sort of ascension or kind of next vibration, one thing is with Virgo to always focus on serving humanity, not just ourselves. And that's a big theme this month with the Leo Virgo combinations, right? The Sun, Venus, and Leo, then all the Virgo with Mars and Mercury, and then the Sun. How do I, you know, approach my creative process, my leadership in a way that really is serving the collective? It's not just about my own, you know, ego in any way, but, you know, if I'm giving a role of leadership or creative stage, how can that be of service? And it's interesting, I pulled a card, one of the names of Allah in the Sufi mystic Islam tradition, the 99 names, and this is Al-Hamid. And there is, it's really interesting because one of the words that you hear a lot in Islam is Alhamdulillah, which means all praise to God, all praise to Allah. And this is, this name has a lot to do with gratitude. And it's that really like the source of gratitude is in the source of everything. And it's sort of like how you can see that everything is worshiping the one or its source and is giving its gratitude through its way of being. And this is very important in terms of this maybe higher vibration or fifth dimensional or ascensional energies that we're moving into more and more. Is we want to live in a feeling in a spirit of abundance. And the spirit of abundance comes from the sense that I am constantly being given to. This is another name of Allah, which is Al-Wahhab, the giver. But it's not just giving. There's something in the Arabic, which I wish I understood Arabic, but in my studies, I've learned that Al-Wahhab is not just giving, it's the constant giving, the boundless giving, like the extreme giving, like the giving that has no end, the unconditional giving. This is the name of God or Allah. And so what does that mean to be given to again and again and again? Everything is given to us. The breath, right? The food that we eat, the money that we have to pay for the things that we need. Somebody gave that to us and somebody gave that to them. And if you look all the way back, it's actually God. It's the great giver, the great source of all of it that's giving constantly to all of us, and it's circulating. And there's another interesting point here that we don't really own anything. Everything is on loan. So if we are questioning, you know, how much I'm earning right now, maybe I'm not earning as much, or the price of inflation on anything, just come back to the source of everything and really connect with the abundance this month. The abundance, which is your birthright, you as a child of God, Allah, Spirit, you are also infinitely abundant. You're not limited in any way, right? You have creative gifts that can really be tapped into this month. And I also pulled this card from the Starseed deck, which is a great deck. I don't know if you can see it. I think Zoom is cut it. There we go. And it's the karmic relationships card. Perfect, right? Because we have that Venus retrograde. Venus is now ruling the South Node in Libra. The South Node definitely has karma, soul history for us collectively. Libra, partnerships, collaborations, relationships. And so this card emphasizes polarity, soul growth through intimate reflection, mirroring. And that theme comes up again because we have another full moon. Like we said, we have 2 full moons this month. If you go to August 30th, you see that the full moon is going to come in the early degrees of Pisces. And this is going to be, you know, a moon that carries some weight to it because it's with Saturn. And it's about 4 degrees away from Saturn. There it is. And so it brings a sense of responsibility, hard work, and, you know, whatever relationships are in our life, they're going to take on a tone of like, what are we doing together? What are we building together? What soul contracts do we have? What foundations are here between us? Is it stable or not? And if it's not, especially during this Mercury retrograde at the end of the month, we might need to make some changes, and Venus retrograde as well, right? And then you look at what happens with Mars just before this. So we go back just a couple days, and you're going to see that Mars changes into Libra on the 27th. Well, this is Mars' sign of what we call detriment. Mars actually rules the other sign opposite, which is Aries, right? Aries the warrior, Aries courageous, Aries the actor, moving, making life happen, right? Adventurous, leading, going, being bold, daring. Well, what does Mars in Libra do? It looks over here and says, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Right? If you have Mars in Libra, you know, people with Mars in Libra, they're often quite giving and, you know, quite passionate about building out relationships in their life. But it's hard to get things done with Mars in Libra because there's a lot of consideration, reconsideration, mediation, making sure everyone's happy, or at least the peace is being kept. That might be kind of building up some inner resentments at the end of the month into the beginning of September with the double retrograde of Venus and Mercury, Venus ruling where Mars is in Libra. I think this is a little tricky, and it does mean that we're going to have to do the work of more conscious relating, slowing down, listening to each other, using the talking stick, giving a lot of value to how we show up for each other. Great time to be integrating the love languages, bringing in synastry and composite charts from astrology, from human design. That's an area that I love working with clients in because it just accelerates you understanding the work that you've come to do together. Whether that's, you know, professional, having a family together, traveling the world together, you know, teaching together, being lovers, you know, sharing a house together, right? Whatever you're doing, you can do it more consciously and intentionally when you are applying astrology and human design into, and other tools as well. But definitely these tools can show you exactly the kind of soul contracts that you have and help you really live the heart of the relationship that you're in a way that feels, you know, really attuned to the cosmos and attuned to what those soul contracts are, and trying to get the ego like to just quiet down and really listen to more like, okay, I humbly accept this play and this work with you. And it may be for a week, a month, a year, or our whole lives, or those other lives we shared together that we're remembering at this time. And so it's a powerful month. Karmic relationships are really up. Gratitude, creativity, right? Some sense of to really be myself, to be the highest version or highest vibration of myself. I need to maybe chisel away, cut out some things, definitely meditate more, do my spiritual practices a lot more, do some hard work, but also like balance the sort of work and play and, you know, this let go and let God. That can be one of the mantras this month, and to really study yourself in a big way and let the reflections come in. And even if they're difficult, humbly accept them, right? As gifts from Al-Wahhab, the giver, right? And remember gratitude, that it's all coming from the source of gratitude, Alhamid, Alhamdulillah, all praise God, all praise our source for everything. Thank you for being with me and with us today. Remember our course or class coming up. It's Planetary Rites of Passage. It's going to be recorded as well if you listen to this after Wednesday. And if you did like this video, if it's been supportive for you, please like and subscribe, share it. And all the best to you. Keep creating and stay in your role of sacred servant, of high priest and priestess this Virgo Leo month ahead of us. Namaste.